Hello and welcome to Liferay Symposium 2020. It's our pleasure to bring this event to you in a new digital format that allows us to share ideas and collaborate in spite of the safety precautions that we're all taking in the face of the pandemic. While we look forward every year to spending time with our customers, partners, and community, we hope that this format is also making it possible for our content to be accessible to a wider audience. 2020 has been a very challenging year for all of us professionally and personally, and for society at large. And yet it is thanks to digital technology that we've been able to quickly respond to the new normal and change the way we work and change the way that we live. Whether it's the way that we spend our leisure time or the way that we collaborate with colleagues, technology really is at the forefront in many ways of our response to this crisis. It's also been at the forefront in quite a direct way as well. AI technology, for example, helping doctors in Italy to take quick stock of a patient's lung condition to make a split-second decision on whether to investigate that patient further. You could say that digital technology is getting us through the crisis, and yet at the same time, I believe that technology is accelerating a different crisis, a digital crisis, if you will, for companies. Whether it is organizations like Disney, which derives almost all of its revenue from streams that require and rely on in-person customer experiences like theme parks and theaters, or it is cruise ships that are facing quite a hardship in the crisis as well. There are many companies that have had to really think through what their forward digital strategy would be. Meanwhile, other companies have used this opportunity to accelerate their investment in digital. John Deere had for years already started to outfit its heavy equipment with IoT devices that would help farmers to have better yields on crops with micro doses of fertilizer and pesticide. Meanwhile, recently we heard that the Heinz company, which has traditionally relied on reaching customers through indirect channels like grocery stores and distributors, is now exploring a direct-to-consumer subscription offering for its most popular products. And so in these and other ways, I believe that digital technology will divide leading companies from those that are going to be left behind in the wake of innovation and acceleration that is enabled by that technology. In a recent survey by an organization called ETR, a survey of 1,300 global CIOs, we found that overall there was an anticipated reduction in IT spending from most companies. But at the same time, Goldman Sachs is identifying that coming out of the crisis, many companies who are leaders in their field will accelerate their adoption of cloud technologies and further adopt e-commerce. And so as leaders in your organizations, I think it's important not only to make the wise decision to evaluate digital technology and to accelerate your spend in the ways that are most strategic for you, but also to think about how that investment happens and what the proper relationship should be between you and your technology. In the past 25 years, we have seen an incredible increase in the amount of investment that has happened in software and other technology. As technology has grown in strategic importance, we have seen a likewise increase in the spend of in-house enterprise IT, which of course we would all expect. Now, moving from something that is important to something is critical and differentiating, we've actually seen an interesting trend where not only is spending actually decreasing on in-house investments, it's actually increasing for spending with third-party vendors. And the reason for this is fairly obvious. If technology is critical to your business, but your core competency is something other than cloud or DevOps or platform services, then it actually makes much more sense for you to leave that in the hands of trusted partners and professionals whose core competency really is those technologies. So if we've realized that digital technology is critical to being competitive in the future, and that the right relationship between your company and technology is to entrust critical technology to vendors, then it then becomes important to understand the vendor landscape. When you take a technology-centric view of the provider landscape, it often looks something like this. You have infrastructure software, platforms, and you have solutions, often delivered by SaaS, but even on-premise packaged software. Like in the US, we use software like QuickBooks, or in Europe, packages like Sage were quite popular. What does this landscape look like? Well, on the infrastructure side, we have, of course, the major cloud providers like Amazon, Microsoft, and Google. You have IBM, both providing their own cloud infrastructure and providing, through its Red Hat acquisition, OpenShift, which is really a platform as a service for managing your solutions and projects with DevOps capabilities. Some companies in the last few years have opted for a microservices architecture that they've developed in-house. And then moving up the chain, if you will, there are providers like Adobe Experience Cloud, which can't just be used out of the box per se, but does start to provide a lot of business value out of the box with support for marketing and other functions. Hybris, as a commerce platform, provides something similar, as well as, of course, Salesforce, which has a combination of CRM and their Apex technology, which allows for customizations. And then at the very top end, you have solutions like Interact or Workday, which are really designed to provide a point solution, in this case, as software as a service for key business problems that most companies face. Now, I want to deconstruct this approach to thinking about technology a little bit, because I think for every promise that this category provides, there is also a way in which it falls short. In the case of infrastructure, the idea is that plumbing should be left to the technology operators, although in reality, if, for example, you want to achieve DevOps in your organization using AWS, you still need to make quite a few decisions. Do you use Jenkins? How do I implement continuous deployment and integration? How does Kubernetes play with the rest of my process? And then how do I actually tie all these pieces together to function smoothly? With platforms, of course, the promise is that building blocks will be provided for custom solutions to be delivered through your in-house team or through a system integrator. Sometimes where this falls short, of course, is the quality of the building blocks, if you will. How much out-of-the-box functionality is provided, and how much do you actually end up having to customize or develop separately. And then finally, with SaaS, we have, of course, the promise of instant business value for a very competitive price because of the economies of scale that are made possible, especially for those vendors that have a multi-tenant model. Now, what does end up happening, which is a repeat of past technology trends, is that when you have several point solutions, you end up then having to glue a lot of these together, filling the gaps, making sure, for example, that assets, content, data, and other attributes are rationalized over time. So as Liferay, we looked at this landscape, we realized some of the challenges that come with this way of approaching technology, and we decided to have a different perspective. And to summarize, we believe that it's important for vendors to lead with solutions that are designed specifically for the business value that is required of their buyers. Now, we do take a platform approach to these solutions, and we try to make that platform as complete as possible so that we are not only able to provide that first solution, but over time, provide value in adjacent needs and categories. And then finally, we do believe that infrastructure is being increasingly commoditized, that you should care less and less about which cloud provider you go with, and rather what you really need is someone to take care of the nuts and bolts and make sure that the plumbing is all designed to work together. So let's take a look at how this looks in a concrete use case. So I'm a B2B manufacturer. I sell through dealers, distributors, and retailers. And until now, I've done 95% of my business over the phone. I have B2B sellers that have strong relationships with these dealers and distributors, and they're accustomed to making orders through fax or over the phone where they can take advantage of special discounts. Well, not only in the face of the pandemic, but even in the face of increasing customer preference for digital channels, I've decided to invest in a B2B dealer portal that allows my sellers and my buyers to make orders online. Of course, I'm very accustomed to working with specific ERP systems that are tailored for my specific industry. And so that's a requirement that the platform or the solution can integrate with the things that I already have in-house. This is 2020, and we're well into the cloud revolution. And so I fully expect that I can not only deploy the first solution, but every quarter deploy new features without risking the availability of this channel, which is increasingly being used to process more and more of my orders. I find over time that I want to enhance my product information with repositories of content that contain things like technical specifications, instruction manuals, troubleshooting best practices, and so forth. And I want that to be seamlessly integrated into the experience right at the user experience tier. And so now this is possible, and I'm able to enhance that dealer site so that my dealers and distributors can provide a better experience to their customers. And then finally, I then realized that a lot of the capabilities, a lot of the needs that are experienced by my dealers and distributors are also shared by my customers. And so can I actually easily repurpose some of the capabilities I built out for the dealer context for my customers? And I find that I do have that reusability. And of course, because this is all built on a common cloud infrastructure, issues like scalability, responding to spikes in demand are no problem at all for both solutions. And so you see this nice line that connects through. And what I really want to convey is that the core perspective we have is to deliver what the customer needs, not to really think about necessarily the vendor categories that we think of as technologists. And so you see this in a lot of the solutions that we're bringing to market over the last several years. Of course, you've heard a lot about our commerce offering, but I want to make clear that this is much more than just adding things to a cart and then checking out. It is, of course, the fulfillment of those orders, but it's also handling a lot of the B2B aspects like order approvals, being able to track the status of orders, enabling B2B sellers to see the same thing as their purchasers so that they can guide their customers through the process. And it's also, of course, helping these buyers to repurchase frequently used items. Here you see that a lot of the core platform characteristics of Liferay are present, including integration, optimized user experiences, account-based personalization, and integrated analytics. In the insurance space in North America, we have devised a solution for the digital insurance experience, if you will. And again, we're thinking about not only how to support renewals and quotes online, but also supporting agents and brokers who need to manage a large volume of applications, claims, and renewals, and to do it all in a proactive fashion so that the end customer experience is much more positive. And we're hoping that we can take some of these best practices and deliver solutions for European markets in the future as well. Well, whatever the solution is, whatever the business need is, whether it's a customer portal, a B2B commerce site, or some form of a partner or dealer portal, thanks to the fact that the Liferay platform is the underlying foundation of all of these solutions, you'll find that the core capabilities are reused in a consistent manner across, so that no matter whether your dealer, customer, or your internal employee is interfacing with your company through these experiences, there is a consistency and a connection throughout. And then finally, because of our investments in the cloud, in DXP Cloud, and thinking through the different ways that Liferay solutions are delivered on the cloud, we are taking care of the core expectations that you have today with regard to DevOps, backups, scaling, and search that we have for our modern solutions. Well, I want to close by just sharing a couple of customer stories that have come to the forefront this year. One is O2 Slovakia, Radoslav Volny, who has shared that they were able to transform the way they serve their customers across multiple channels thanks to the Liferay platform approach. 2 million customers are interacting with O2 Slovakia in various forms, whether it is through the online customer portal, through an in-store experience, or through their call center. And each of these channels ultimately leverages the self-care portal that's built on Liferay, which saw an increase of 20% a month over the course of a year. And it was a huge success for Slovakia, O2 Slovakia, that has really transformed that experience for customers. Also of note is one of our first customers for DXP Cloud, which is Vodafone Business based in the UK. And they really see the role of Liferay not only providing a platform to host solutions, but being a tool set, a platform for DevOps that has helped transform the entire enterprise IT culture at that organization to change the way they build and operate the services for their customers. They are able to bring new features and capabilities to market faster in an agile way that is able to then respond to customer behavior with additional improvements. Well, I also want to take a moment to exhort all of us to think about the ways that we as digital companies can respond to a different kind of digital divide that's happening in our society. Here in Los Angeles, there is a marked distinction between folks like myself who can work from the comfort of my own home and continue to enjoy success as a digital company, even in the face of economic recession, compared to those critical essential workers who continue to have to work in person and therefore expose themselves to greater risk with COVID-19. And I think all of us can do smaller or bigger things to help contribute to the livelihoods and well-being of our fellow citizens. In our case here in Los Angeles, we've made a marked effort to not only generously tip those workers who deliver food to us, but also to make a point of using these restaurant and other services as frequently as possible to keep our local economies going. I also know of an organization in the Midwest of the US called Kenzie Academy, who is deliberately targeting those who were formerly in manufacturing core jobs and helping them to make a transition to new careers in technology by teaching them how to code, how to test, and to provide other digital skills. And I believe that in informal ways, all of us can do the same thing. I know, for example, of a partner in Europe who, in the face of the pandemic, was able to donate some of their technical skills by providing a protective equipment procurement portal for hospitals in Hungary. And in these and in other ways, I believe that Liferay customers and partners can do our part to contribute to helping our society in the face of this crisis. And finally, I believe that we can provide opportunities, even in our companies long-term, through the employment of folks who might otherwise not have equal access to technical careers. Within Liferay, one of our employees is formerly from Sudan and was one of the quote-unquote lost boys who fled that country back in the 90s. He is now one of our QA engineers based in the Los Angeles area, and he's been able to have a successful career where we made a deliberate decision to engage him and employ him and to give him the needed resources to really make an important transition. And so with that, I want to thank you again for joining us for the Liferay Symposium Digital Edition. We have a lot of great content lined up for you today, and I look forward to your participation. Thank you so much for making it possible for Liferay to continue to be a successful digital leader in 2020 and beyond.